in that light, knowing now that you're a dealer, has that changed? I want to get into these 6 steps, but first I'm curious if your thought process about these 6 steps is changing as you're thinking about your dealership.
Yes and no, because the proof in the pudding was already our numbers at Toyota, at Hyundai, at Kia, etc.
Right.
So the proof of the pudding was that it worked, that we have success with a higher conversion, better customer satisfaction because the lead were handled properly, etc. But on the other hand, for the not so successful dealers we help, there are always people over there at the dealership, salespeople, which always want to argue with you why it doesn't work. And I want to have a place where everything is going to be my way. And if I'm doing a consultancy job, when I'm leaving the building, then they can do whatever they want. Right. And I want to be that example that say, hey, I want to teach you something, but I can show you also that I'm doing the same stuff over my dealership as well. And that's one of the forms I wanted to try out the dealership, but also try out different things. So one of the things we developed is the live store. So on the website, in business hours, and business hours are from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the evening, there is a button on the website which will say live store. And the live store will trigger, with one click on a button, a FaceTime conversation with the people in the dealership. And the people in the dealership will have a FaceTime conversation with the consumer on the other hand. And because the experience center should not be the experience center as a building, but foremost, it should be the studio for the website. So the website is going first and the experience center is going second. So the experience center has to build the trust for the website, not the other way around.
Right.
So people can have a FaceTime conversation asking for the models, the colors, etc. in real time without entering information like name, phone number, etc. But only one click on the button, a FaceTime conversation, and you can talk to people face to face and show them all the colors. That's one of the things I want to try out before I'm going to introduce that to 300 salespeople. But by the way, 290 people will be against it because they don't trust themselves in a FaceTime conversation.
Right.
So if I can prove that first, that is not that hard, then we have a better conversation.
Yeah, and I was going to say that that's going to be a huge departure from what we're used to, because it's like, no, I must capture the consumer's information so I know who I'm speaking to and and gauge their interest level. You're saying, no, let's bypass all of that. I want to clarify something. You're saying that the experience is to line up the website. Is that because you're thinking about an online transaction sort of thing?
Yeah. So the website is first in my mind. So that is my most important shop, where I can attract the most people, because internet is never a wonder miracle. It is just a tool on scale to talk to more people than I can do in a physical manner. And so that's the benefit of the online experience. But the online website at itself will not sell a car more or less because you are doing it online with a button, buy me now online. Because back in the day in 2001, I already had that button, buy me now online. So that's nothing new. But on the other hand, Olga has a shop. Right. And in the shop, the first shop is the Instagram shop. The second one is the Marktplaats shop. And the third one is the physical shop, in that order. And Instagram will build the physical shop, and the physical shop will build the Instagram follow-up. And that's the same game plan we are going to do with the dealership, to make the website first, most dominant, and the experience center uses as a studio to develop trust on that hand.
Mm.
Because I'm speaking to 2 people or 10 people a day physical in the shop, but I can talk to 200 people online when they are. And if I'm doing all the borders, etc., to give information, I'm going to talk to 3 people. And
Right.
I want to talk to 100 people.
Right. This is I love the way that you're thinking this through, and I think, you know, giving that option, making yourself more accessible to the consumer, in my estimation, can only result in good connections, increased relationship, and to your point, that overall experience that the customer have, I think, is going to be enhanced through that. But you'll have to keep us in the loop on how that evolves and what you're learning in that process. And certainly everybody that's listening should be following Paul on LinkedIn, because he talks all about that. We'll link to his LinkedIn profile in the show notes.
No, but on the other hand, we are going to try out, so the online offline experience combined, we can call that omni-channel or whatever.
Right.
But on the other hand, we are going to try out the dealer and the agency model as well. So I have I have 3 big places in my neighborhood: Arnhem, Doetinchem, and Zutphen. It's in my region, which I have to make. I have now 3 dealers, which are going to be my agents. So that there will be my offline marketing. So the cars will be there on their facilities with QR and codes, etc. When somebody is going to scan that, and we can make an appointment with that consumer there with a FaceTime conversation or physical or on the location of the consumer, I'm going to pay them a fee. If I'm going to sell the car to them, I'm going to pay them a bigger fee. And they are going to do the handoff and the technical maintenance of the car. If they don't want to do that because they want to sell the car by themselves, they can have an invoice of me.
Right.
So I want to be the hybrid of offline, online, and I want to be the hybrid of a dealer and agency model combined. Because I don't believe a thing about Ford is doing now or Stellantis is doing now, because it will only work when the demand is high and the supply is low. But in a normal circumstance, it will not work.
That's a good point. Let me ask you then, I want to transition a little bit into these 6 steps. Can you walk us through, I know those listening are saying, Michael promised us 6 steps 10 minutes ago. What are so can you walk us through what's taken you now the last 4 or 5 years or more to develop, and maybe some examples of what that would look like for a dealership to implement?
Yeah, of course. So we started now with another OEM, and they have a response time, a mandatory response time on leads, online leads, for the dealers of 30 minutes. So they are asking their dealers to be responding to the leads in 30 minutes. And that's the only KPI they are giving the dealers. Be great, and be fast, and call the lead or respond to the lead within 30 minutes. We are asking them, why 30 minutes? They have surveys, they have and content about 30 minutes.
Right.
And then we are going to say about the 4 traits of the consumer nowadays. The 4 traits of the consumer nowadays: we are walking with the iPhone, we are going to bed with the iPhone, we are going to a public toilet with the iPhone, etc. The iPhone is everywhere, or the phone at itself.
Right.
But if somebody who you don't know are calling you, you won't pick up the phone. So the response time is very big, because if you are in the moment to submit information, to submit a lead and submit and request information, you are in that moment. You have only 2 minutes to respond. If you are later than that, the chance on a voicemail, the chance that people are not picking up or no have attention whatsoever, is very big. The second trait of the consumer nowadays, we have no time whatsoever. We have no patience whatsoever. You have children in some ages, when you shut up the Wi-Fi for 1 second, they are screaming for something. And you can say that as well on the WhatsApp. If you send out on WhatsApp, if you are using WhatsApp, and you send a message to your wife where you need the answer, and you see the blue remarks and you are not getting the answer back, then your basis is 0, because you need that information. So 2 of the 4 traits are very important in lead follow-up. So we're saying on the first step, you need to follow up within 5 minutes. And all dealers will be crazy because it cannot work, it cannot happen, it's not workable, etc. But we are using an American system, the cold rep system, and that is a system which actually gives you a call, when an inbound call, when somebody submits information through an online lead. So it forces you to pick up the phone. So it's actually an enforcer tool. So the 5 minutes or the 2 minutes is the most easiest step of the 6th step, because that is something which, if you pick up the phone, then it will work. But the second step is that we made a process manual of 45 pages where we lay out the tactics. It's about 20 years of experience in 45 pages about lead handling, about scripting, email scripting, SMS scripting, voicemail scripting, WhatsApp scripting, etc., how it should work. And it is not the Bible, but on the other hand, if you work the system like that, you will be successful. The step 3 is making the salespeople important. Not saying the BDC is there to help you. No, we invested a lot of time and money and effort on the salespeople. You have to be controlling the lead. We think you are important, because if I'm calling a dealer in Holland and I ask him physically, I'm interested in one of your cars, who do I need to talk to? He's going to say the salespeople. But then I'm going to say, hey, but if I'm calling, who should I speak to? Then he will say the salespeople. But then when I'm submitting a lead with a form, then it should be a BDC. It makes no sense whatsoever. So we are making it very blunt to the salespeople that they are important. The 4th step is the minimum acceptable performance. I'm getting that from Clem Pesh on the DMSC, where he went to last month. And that was about 7 years ago. They were talking about the minimum acceptable performance of 36%. So 100 leads, you need 36% conversion rate on appointments. So because one KPI is never a KPI. So in Holland, and I know for sure that in America no such salespeople existing, but they're getting the phone call, listening to the whisper, waiting for one ring to go to the client, and then hung up the phone, and then saying, hey, I was calling within 5 minutes, but the client don't pick up the phone. I did my job.
Right.
So you never trust one KPI, so you need a second KPI. But if they are selling the appointments, the sale will happen. But if they don't selling the appointments, the sale will never happen. So that's the 4th step. The 5th step is inspect what you expect. Of course, listen to all the calls. So we're listening to thousands of calls in the Netherlands, in Germany now, and in Belgium. What happened in the call? Because the perception of the salespeople can have, I made an appointment, but without a date and a time, it is never an appointment.
Right.
So the assumption of the salespeople, I don't trust. I want to know it for sure, because the lead is in most cases for salespeople in the Netherlands, in Europe, free. But there is an obligation to do it right. And we have another system, so we have to pay salespeople a very good salary. You have to pay them sick leave, you have to pay them holiday days, etc. And they only have to show up. So you have to push them on the other way to control them actually what they are doing. And control is fine if you can explain why it happened. The leads are free, but there is an obligation to do it right. And the 6th step is coaching. And I always refer to the dry sponge technique. So if you can emphasize a dry sponge, a yellow one, a hard one, and you take out a glass of water and you will spill it out, about 80% of the water will spill off. That's the brain of a salespeople. If you train them for 3-4 hours, it will splash off. It will not go into their brain. But if you train them for every day 5 minutes to listen to his calls and give audio feedback on the call, on the conversation, and send them through an email to them through the cold rep system, you will train them every day for only 5 minutes. So the 6 steps is North Star. You need a follow-up within 5 minutes. The second, a lead process manual. Give them the content in video, in text, etc., how to do their job on lead handling. The 3 is making them important, make them feel important as well as their striker, as the quarterback, or I don't know what a striker is in American football, but whatever. 4th is the map, the minimum acceptable performance. What are we aiming for after the 5 minutes? And then step 5 and 6 is inspect what you expect. We expect 36% conversion. If the salespeople are saying, I have 60, that's fine, but I want to check that as well. From a different source with a different set of eyes and ears. And 6th, coaching. So we started with some OEMs. And for example, we started with 8.9% conversion, 60,000 leads. And we diverted that to 17.2%. After 3 years. And that's on scale with 300 salespeople, 100 stores. So it will work if you do the 6th step. It will never work if you're only implementing a tool. Because a fool with a tool is still the fool. So, and give me a sledgehammer, I cannot do anything with it.
I think we need to make a shirt that says a fool with a tool is still a fool.
Yeah.
Is still a fool. I love that.
Yeah.
Is there any, in your opinion, is there any room for a hybrid BDC sales department?
We have, because the BDC I'm owning is the escalation part of the OEMs. So we're working with about 6-7 OEMs. When the phone call is coming to the dealership through the cold rep system, and nobody picks up the phone because they are all in deliveries, they're all in sales conversations, whatever the case will be, if that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
We are ringing once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5th time, 6th times, but the 6th time is going over to our BDC as well. Because we want to have a structure that the lead follow-up will be happening within 5 minutes. The first chance is going to the salespeople. The second chance is going to the BDC as well. Because a conversation with the client should be happening within the 5 minutes.
Right.
So the BDC is still part of the game, but as an escalation, not as the quarterback, not as the most important one. And then you can also see the numbers that the really good salespeople are doing twice that much appointments than the BDC because they are better. The average salespeople is losing from the BDC, and that's what we have to train.
The other thought that comes to my mind, and as we close down here, is I would imagine by implementing and training these 6 steps, the salespeople are more fulfilled. There's probably less turnover in the dealership because people are more satisfied with the work they do because they're actually getting results.
Yes and no. So in Europe, you don't have the turnover you have in North America, right? Because the loyalty goes 2 ways. On the other hand, if salespeople are having conversations with clients within 1 minute, after 2 minutes, they're submitting a lead, people are very enthusiastic about that lead follow-up. they are starting the conversation with a happy smile. Wow, that's fast, or something like that. That's the fuel you need as a salespeople. If the other end is responding in a good way, because if somebody's picking up the phone, you don't get exciting about that one. You have to pump yourself. But if the
Right.
customer is actually respondingly happy to you because you are calling as a salesperson, that gives you the fuel you need to have the best conversations you will ever have. And that's fulfilling.